Salve dragilor! Mă bucur să vă văd și să vă revăd. Este ceva vreme de la evenimentul anterior pe care l-am făcut, HR Talk, cu transmisie live pe rețelele de socializare, însă în principal pe LinkedIn. Dacă vă aduceți aminte, în edițiile anterioare am dezbătut o serie întreagă de, să spunem așa, spețe tematici care sunt de interes în domeniul resurselor umane și nu numai. Tocmai de aceea, astăzi v-am pregătit, să spunem așa, o surpriză interesantă, pentru că invitații de astăzi sunt unii extraordinari. Cu atât mai mult cu cât veți observa că au o experiență vastă în tot ceea ce înseamnă partea de comunicare, relaționare și mai mult decât atât în ceea ce se pot dezvolta oamenii din departamentele de resurse umane. Pentru început, îl am alături de mine pe unul dintre acești invitați și este vorba de Tudor Borza, președintele Asociației Europene de Hipnoză, hipnoterapeut și multe altele. Și o să las pe el să vă spună câteva cuvinte pentru început. Salve Tudor și mă bucur că ești alături de noi.
Bună seara, Gabriel! Salutare tuturor participanților, fiindcă s-ar putea să fie pe alte fuse orare și lor să le spun, de exemplu, bună dimineața sau să fiu în alt moment al zilei. Mă bucur pentru că m-ai invitat, dar cred că cel mai important invitat este cel care urmează. Este vorba de Frank Pucelik, care este co-creatorul programării neurolingvistice. În momentul actual, cred că pentru umanitate, programarea neurolingvistică este cel mai eficient mod de a gestiona felul în care funcționăm, de a utiliza resursele, chiar și cele neconștientizate din interiorul ființei noastre.
Așa este, Tudor. Îl așteptăm pe Frank să se conecteze alături de noi. Însă ai deja tu o vastă experiență în acest domeniu. Pe tine ce te-a împins, să spunem așa, la drum în urmă cu ani de zile să studiezi NLP, așa cum o știm cu toții, programarea neurolingvistică, cum este titlul acestui NLP?
Aveam o discuție la un moment dat cu un prieten și ăsta spunea: în țara asta nu se mișcă nimic fără un interes. În copilărie erau niște lucruri interesante. Dacă observi detaliile, felul în care comunică ființele între ele și nu doar oamenii, vei constata că există un anumit stil de comunicare al animalelor și noi avem un alt stil de comunicare. Și culmea, animalele între ele se înțeleg mult mai bine uneori decât reușim noi oamenii să ne înțelegem între noi, sau mult mai bine decât oamenii reușesc să se înțeleagă cu animalele. Și este, cum să spun, era ciudat în mintea mea de copil să aud că omul este cea mai evoluată ființă, cel mai important element de evoluție în tot ceea ce este viu pe această planetă. Până în momentul în care l-am văzut pe taică-meu hipnotizând un câine care sărise să-și muște stăpânul. Și l-a făcut, deci s-a putut duce să pună mâna pe el și după aceea... Și atunci am zis ok, acum am văzut într-adevăr că omul este peste celelalte ființe și într-adevăr le poate comanda în orice situație. Și am spus că într-adevăr înseamnă că de aici începe comunicarea, de aici începe relaționarea.
Cum a fost pentru tine totuși acel moment? A început relaționarea, a început comunicarea. Ce te-a făcut totuși să-ți dorești să mergi mai departe către comunicarea cu oamenii, nu doar comunicarea cu animalele, Tudor?
Ok. Chestiunea a fost în felul următor. Mi-am dat seama că acel aspect ține de exact ceea ce Frank povestește, că la început NLP-ul se numea meta. Era vorba de metasistem. De fapt, e acel principiu pe care anticii îl căutau în filozofie și spuneau că este un element care leagă totul. După aceea, Wittgenstein, în epoca modernă, a venit și le-a spus că nu este un element, ci este un principiu eventual care poate să guverneze tot ceea ce există în univers și care să genereze niște reguli universal aplicabile. Și atunci mi-am dat seama că hipnoza era cheia mea la acel moment, 1989, primăvara anului 1989, pentru partea asta. Și fiind copil, la vârsta respectivă, îmbrățișând chestia asta, am făcut o grămadă de năzbătiri, dar în același timp am folosit chestia asta și am văzut că viața poate fi mult mai lejeră la școală. Poți să te concentrezi mult mai ușor, poți să urmărești mult mai multe detalii, să faci mintea ta să funcționeze, să-ți creezi programe pe care să le folosești ca suport. Exact cum ne-am întâlnit după aceea undeva în mediul visual la programare, unde folosim elemente. Deci folosim obiecte, definim un obiect și facem obiectul ăsta, face așa, 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 așa. Tot așa puteam să... Am înțeles eu la vremea respectivă, după aceea am văzut asemănarea cu mediul visual, dar mi-am dat seama că putem să folosim mintea ca să facă anumite lucruri pentru noi, fără a depune noi efort în lucrul ăsta. Și sunt multe automatisme pe care le avem. Era doar necesar să le observăm. În fine, ideea importantă era faptul că avem foarte multe resurse în interiorul nostru și pe care ar fi păcat să nu le exploatăm. Ar fi păcat să le lăsăm latente. Fiindcă eu consider că dacă mergem cu portmoneul plin undeva să facem niște cumpărături, da, e nesăbuit să cheltuim toți banii, dar cel puțin e bine să știm pe ce resurse ne bazăm ca să putem să ne programăm ceea ce dorim să facem într-un mod eficient.
Îți mulțumesc că l-ai împărtășit cu noi. Tocmai mă luasem pe mine după imagine să-ți ofer ție mai multă vizibilitate.
Da, nu, chiar e mai confortabil.
Întâlnirea noastră este liberă și relaxantă. Ceea ce vreau să te întreb este de când este important, de când este bine să începem să studiem sau să îndrumăm eventual copiii către un astfel de domeniu al comunicării sau al NLP-ului, Tudor?
Acum, din perspectiva mea, este bine să înțelegem principiile astea înainte de a avea copii. Fiindcă în momentul respectiv interacțiunea cu copiii este cu totul și cu totul diferită și copilul deja crește într-un mediu mult mai sănătos de comunicare decât în cazul în care nu avem deja instrumentele acestea. Ca și părinte, când vezi că copilul se duce spre ceva care ar putea să îi creeze un pericol sau un disconfort, sau înspre ceva spre care tu, ca și părinte, ca și adult, nu vrei să meargă, este mult mai simplu să-i spui, vină puțin, hai să-ți arăt ceva, în loc să-i spui, nu te duci acolo, nu fă asta. Exact cum dacă acum vă spun, nu vă imaginați un șarpe care trece pe aici, în primul rând trebuie să înțelegeți ce vă spun, ca să înțelegeți, vă imaginați și creați acea reprezentare în minte. Tendința de a face ceva după ce avem ceva reprezentat în minte este automată, deci creierul automat va face lucrul respectiv, ca să înțeleagă ce înseamnă. Deci el are nevoie creierul într-o cutie neagră, oameni buni. Și din cutia aia neagră el încearcă să integreze cât de mult din tot ceea ce înseamnă experiența existenței. Și atunci orice reprezentare, asta e nou. Cum ar fi? Sunt primele lucruri care se întâmplă. Și atunci sunt niște chestiuni extrem de importante. Deci asta să îndrepți copilul spre altceva, de exemplu, de când e mic și începe să descopere lumea, în loc să descopere blocaje, el va descoperi alte perspective. Ce se întâmplă? Structurile lui neuronale încep să funcționeze într-un mod în care mintea lui descoperă noi perspective în loc să descopere noi blocaje. E ca și atunci când vrei să, după aceea te întâlnești ca adult cu o situație, vrei să ieși din parcare și tu în mintea ta vrei să ieși într-un anumit fel. Cineva tocmai parchează în momentul respectiv. Ai varianta în care claxonezi sau varianta în care te mai uiți odată în jur și spui stai că pot să ies așa. Am văzut N conflicte, bine, ăsta e un exemplu banal, dar poate întâlni destul de des. Am văzut N conflicte între oameni care există fără să aibă rost. E simplu fapt că acel conflict e generat de limitarea viziunii lui X întâlnită cu limitarea viziunii lui Y și chestia asta dă scântei.
Așa este. Dragilor, avem plăcerea Și eu și Tudor, și ne bucurăm din suflet, ca sper și voi, să interacționați și să adresați întrebări pe LinkedIn, pentru că, iată, este alături de noi Robert Franklin Pucelik, o persoană pe care am cunoscut-o acum 2 săptămâni la primul modul NLP al cursului pe care l-a făcut. Hello Frank, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Thank you. We're well, thank you. Sorry for my English, and I invite you because I learned more in 5 days 2 years ago when I was to the course with you.
Thank you.
Welcome. Frank, we talk with Tudor about NLP, about therapist for the moment. And I invite you because the thematic for today is what is difficult to learn NLP. And for the moment, I want to speak to ask you what is NLP, what is Meta, because I learned to you about Meta.
Good for you. I'm glad you learned Meta. I'm proud of that. NLP or Meta, NLP was originally called Meta for the first 5 years. And during that time, we built a system by studying studying a lot of things, but we tried to figure out how do people think, because what we discovered very quickly is how people think is how they control their lives. Not so much what they think, but how they think. And most of the ideas of communication before us were focused on what people think. So if you want to change your life, you have to learn to think about different things. What happened in our group for the first 4 years is we learned that that's not necessarily true. That much more accurately is the world gives you a lot of different experiences, but really more important is what you do with those experiences in your head that is actually what creates your life. And so we wanted to know how that works. And so we spent 4 years, about 4.5 years, studying everything we could study about how your mind works, how your senses work, and we discovered things like that. We have fancy words for stuff, but we discovered words like cognitive strategies, which means basically the steps you use to have a certain thought, to have a certain decision or judgment, and that actually you can map those steps. And those steps are very important in what kind of decision you make. Okay. Well, we wanted to know, is there something we can observe in human behavior that tells us what those steps are? Especially if, in 2 cases, if somebody is hurting themselves by how they think, we want to know what the steps are so we can change them. Okay.
Yes.
And if somebody is really, really good at something, and we want to know why they're really, really good at it. Because if you ask them why they're really good at something, they can't tell you. So what we designed is a system that we could kind of get in their head by asking certain kinds of questions, skillful questions, and we could find out how they think about something that they do in which they're maybe the best in the world. Oh my goodness. If we learn to think like that, will that affect our success in whatever we're doing in a similar thing that person is successful in? And we discovered, yes, it does. It's not gonna give us 20 years of experience like that person has. But we discovered that we can cross over that 20 years and we can turn that 20 years into about 6 months. So that if you learn how somebody thinks, and you practice it, and you learn to think in the same way in the same situations with some other variables that we also studied in NLP, you can learn a 20-year lifetime career that somebody has in a relatively short time. Now, it's not a miracle, and you can't push a button and become Einstein. So, and some people try to make out NLP out as a miracle. It's not. But if I can practice the same way somebody else thinks for 6 months, And also I study their technology, I study their ideas, I study the other things that they have. Will that affect the speed with which I can become maybe equal to them or even better? See, we used to do that with apprenticeships, but apprenticeships were 20, 25 years, 30 years. And the sad thing was that the person who had that apprenticeship almost never became the same level of skill as the master, even when they worked with the master for 20, 30 years, because the master had something else. And that something else we discovered was how they think. Now, so if we can learn the issues that they learned and learn how to think like they think in 6 months, will that give us 70, 80, maybe 90% of their skill level that they gained after 30 years or 35 years? Yes. Yes, it can.
Frank, you are co-creator to NLP. So it is difficult to learn NLP or Meta.
Well, think of this. Yes, it is. Okay. But it's not, if I want to learn, like, say, for example, 5 different disciplines or 5 different types of psychotherapy or 5 different ways to be successful in the world, and I study them in the normal way, then I'm going to be 120 years old when I finish learning the 5th one. Okay? Because that's how long it takes. If I can accelerate that learning and have all 5 of those disciplines to be really, really good at them within a year and a half to 2 years, then I can spend the rest of the time refining those and making them better. Okay, so, but this is not magic and it's not simple. It's mental skills, mental processes that you learn to use in your head that help you do things skillfully, really skillfully. What we discovered was we go to school to learn things, but we don't go to school to learn how to think. If you learn how to think, you can learn all kinds of things and you can go through things very fast. But if you don't know how to think skillfully, then it takes you 20, 25 years to learn a single thing. So yes, no, it's not simple. How long does it take to become really, really good at the basic skills? About 6 months. We have programs, and during the programs, a 12-day program or a 6-day program, we teach you how to learn the skills. Okay, then you practice for 3 or 4 months. You come back for another level of training, and then you take another 4 to 5 months. And at the end of 6 months, you can be really very good. Then you go to the next level because you want to be great. You don't want to just be good. Okay. So my opinion is that to become an expert in meta and therefore NLP, and to be able to use it in multiple disciplines, not just in psychotherapy, not just in psychology, but in mathematics, auto mechanics, chemistry, physics, singing, sports, raising children, having a happy relationship, all the things that are complex things that we try to do as humans, right? You can have the skills necessary to learn to become incredibly effective in all of those things in about 2 years, maybe 2.5, depending on if you don't practice. But the key to the whole thing, like any skill that you want to learn, whether it's tennis or chemistry or whatever, requires what? Requires practice. So I learn basic things, I practice them. I learn more. I practice.
Yes, the practice is very, very important. And
Yes.
so how does it help with your life, the NLP to Meta?
Yeah. You can apply it. You can apply the mental skills to pretty much anything you want to apply it to. And if you apply it to your life and how you're living and how you're experiencing your life, personally, it will, not in a miracle time, but in 6 months to a year, it will transform your life into the life you always wanted to have. You'll be able to accomplish the goals you've always had. You'll be able to accomplish the relationships that you've always wanted. Using it in your life is what most people do first before they decide to move on to other disciplines. So yeah, it totally, Again, it's not a miracle. You need to learn the skills and practice the skills. But once you do that, and you apply it to your life, within another 6 months to a year of your life learning to be better and developing and so forth, you come out probably a year and a half down the road from the very beginning, we're able to do pretty much anything you want to do with your life. The skills, marriage, children, all the things that are important to a person that has a happy life. It will affect them all.
I understand. Does it help you to be successful with other people as well with yourself, Frank?
Sure. Yeah, sure. Very much so. Remember, I said that we have certain thinking skills and certain ways that we think, right? When we behave in the world, we use those skills. So in a sense, a person is always presenting not only the information, but they're also presenting how their mind works. Now imagine you're going to talk to somebody and you within 2 or 3 minutes, you can figure out how their mind works, right? And you can adjust how you're communicating to match how their mind works. Then who are you talking? Who are they talking to? They're talking to themselves because you're communicating with exactly the mental structures that they believe are important and valued to them in their life. Even if they're not really healthy ones, and even if they're not the smartest person in the world, doesn't matter, because you're talking to them exactly the way they think. Now, does that help you with those people? Oh, yes, very much so, and very quickly.
Yes, I understand. I have some questions for you on my computer. So, how many different situations in your life does it help you with an NLP?
How many what?
How many different situations in your life does it help with an NLP?
Yeah, here's the way I understand that. Everything I do, I use my mind to do it. Everything, no matter what it is. If my mind works better now, then can I do everything that I do better? Yes. Yes, whether it's sports or whether it's play golf or whether it's why? Because you learn the key skills necessary to be good at that sport, because you were able to learn from a very high quality professional in that sport or in that discipline very quickly. So then that makes it possible for you to move into whatever that is as quickly as you want. And then once you get there and you get your 80 to 90% of what the best in the world can do, then you find out if you want to go to the 99% level, which takes a bit longer.
Yes. And are there many levels of training programs to you, to Tudor?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, so you're going to go right after my tough spot, huh? Okay. There are a lot of people teaching NLP today. And there are a lot of people that are pretty sure they understand what it is. They have been trained by people who were not in the original research like me. And they have been trained by people. A lot of people have learned to train NLP because of its techniques. And if you do this, you'll get this, and you can cure this phobia, and you can cure all this stuff very quickly. And they sell those things. Okay, I don't do that, and I don't believe in that. For me, if I learn to use my mind well, and I live in the world successfully, then I don't use techniques or tricks to make things happen because I don't need them. If I'm doing something and it doesn't work, then I simply change the way I think about that thing until I find a different way to think about it that works really well. And then I go on and do it successfully, whatever that is. So like a person asked me about 5 years ago if I have psychological problems, because I'm, they say you're the great NLP guy and you must not have psychological problems. And I said, well, no, actually I don't. And they said, wow, that must be really nice. Well, what do you do about it? And I said, well, I have a minor trouble because I don't have psychological problems because I don't believe they exist. Okay. So if I'm doing something in the world and I don't like what the result is, either inside of me or outside of me, then I realize that whatever I'm doing doesn't work. So I change what I'm doing until I find a way to do it so that it works. So I just don't consider that psychological. I think that I have some skills that I'm not using in a proper way to accomplish the result in that situation, whatever it is. So I haven't had any psychological problems for about 40 years. Does it mean that everything in my life is wonderful and easy? No. But when I find something that isn't working, I change the way I think until I find a way to do it successfully. And then I know, oh, okay. So I think of my experiences as I have positive experiences in the things that I do. And when I need to learn something different, I have learning experiences. So I don't have good and bad. I have good and learning. And I like to learn. So I'm constantly trying to figure out how to do things better, faster, more effectively, or whatever. But I don't use psychological ideas about that. I think mostly psychological ideas are, some of them are very nice, and some of the people who have built them are very nice people, and they really want to help people, but they believe in content. They believe in the story. And I think the story is irrelevant. I think the story is created by how you think. So if you change the story, but you don't change how you think, you haven't really done anything. And so I see a lot of clients that learn to talk a different story from psychologists, and they're very happy because, oh, now thank you, doctor, you're wonderful, I love you, and they go out into the world, and within 3 or 4 months, they're back to the psychologist with a new problem. Okay. Well, if you listen to the problem, you're going to realize that it's not a new problem; it's a new content for the old problem. Okay. So for psychologists, it's very handy because it really helps you bring people back again and again and again and again and again, and it's a good way to have a long-term career, But I believe in people far more than most people believe in themselves. And I believe that people are incredibly capable. I think that thing that we have sitting on our shoulders is a miracle, because this creates our life, not the world around us, this. And if we learn how to use this in a skillful way, the abilities that we have are incredible and just amazing. You're a miracle. You're a walking miracle, and you create your life all day, every day. If you know how to do it, you can create the life you want. If you're taking what you learned as a kid, which probably wasn't the best strategies in the world, and you live those throughout your whole life, then you are the result of what your parents taught you. And of course, they weren't taught by professionals either, and they weren't taught by professionals either. And so we learn how to think badly from the people who love us because they want to help us grow up good. Okay. And we don't, and most people spend their lives trying to correct the problems the messes that were created in their head when they were young.
Yes. Frank, do you teach anything in addition with to NLP or Meta?
Do I think what?
Do you teach anything in addition to NLP or Meta? Sure.
I teach quite a few things nowadays. One of the things that I do for some professional business people who want to have some very special sport that they can have, that's an elite sport, and that helps them learn to think. And I was a professional golfer, and I teach professional business people to learn to play the game of golf. And golf is a very special game because you can only play it well if you think well. And so without them really knowing that, when I'm teaching them golf, I'm actually teaching them how to use the game to learn how to think better. So their lives get better, their business gets better, their families get better, their kids are happier, and a lot of other things change at the same time. Plus, I run and I train people to work in treatment centers for young drug addicts and alcoholics. And I manage those programs, and they're the most successful in the world because I teach young drug addicts how to think like very successful people, right? And we don't talk about drugs much. We talk about how to be a success in the world. I have a special training program, a special program where I work with combat veterans I work with businesses. I teach businesses leadership skills, organizational development, and a lot of times I'm also a business consultant. That's about half of what I do nowadays. And I go to businesses and they ask me to help them have a more effective business, because most businesses are pretty good at their technical things, like computer technology or whatever it is, but they don't know how to play the game called business. And business is a very complex game, and you have to learn how to play it right. Or no matter what your technical skill is, you're not going to be able to create a profit-making business with good public relations, good staff, good everything. So I do a lot of things. What NLP has helped me do is to study those disciplines from the best people I could find in the world, learn how to do them, and then I meditize them. I use meta skills to what I call chunk down, which is to figure out how they work even better than the people I learned them from. And so when I go to work with companies, I teach them meditized leadership, meditized strategic planning, meditized organizational development. When I work with sports people or drug addicts, I teach them meditized success oriented. I teach them, you understand. So NLP has helped me learn how to do a lot of things very well. And so I have gone to the world, and I believe that I am very lucky, and that it is my duty to give back to the world. And so I work with people who nobody else will work with. And they learn from me, and they become very successful, very happy. The general director of my company is a graduate from my drug treatment program. And she's been my general director for 20 years. And
I understand. Super. The next question, it's from for two, Frank, and for two, Tudor. It is is it possible to become a trainer? Become a trainer?
Sure. And Tudor, you want to start, and I'll come in behind you.
Of course, it's possible to become a trainer, but you need to practice, because you have to master some skills to train them. Or as Einstein said, if you can't explain theory to a 6 years old kid, you don't master that theory. You don't understand that theory. It's just an accident in your mind. So yes, if somebody can do this, he can be a trainer.
Yeah. The greatest thing that I think about is that you have to understand the information that you want to teach, and you have to understand it absolutely well. And usually that means that you don't just understand it, but you also can do it at a very high skill level. So that's the first. But then also you need to understand as much as you possibly can about how people think, so that you can present the information in an interesting and valuable way that matches and makes sense to them, that fits how they think now. So you kind of have to dumb down or break down the information into learnable chunks for people, and then you increase the intensity or the skill level of the information as the people go through the programs. When they come to the point where they're ready to become a trainer, you want to know that they can follow that process from not knowing to knowing for somebody else in that person's head for a period of 2 or 3 years. If they can do that, and in my opinion, and Tudor knows what I think about this, and to be at least somewhat entertaining, so that you don't kill the people of old age while you're standing up there talking about information all day long. So I like to be a little bit entertaining and have some fun and tell jokes and play and so forth. And the people that I train, I've had a lot of people come up to me after 6 days and say things like, "I'm amazed, it's over. I didn't even notice the time, and I sat still for 8 to 10 hours a day and did some exercises, of course. But besides that, oh my God, I was just thrilled the whole time. And the time just went boom, fast. When's the next program?"
Yes.
So I think that there's several different things to go into being a great trainer. But yes, you can.
Thank you. Frank, in your opinion, how long does it take to become a trainer to make good money? Because I am interesting.
Yeah, depends. Including what I said. No, you have to have some team with you, unless you're incredible yourself in marketing and advertising and internet advertising and all the different forms of advertising. Because basically, right now, the difference between a really great trainer and a really successful great trainer is marketing. And you have to get out there and know how to market and sell and so forth. I don't like that, so I hire people for me to do that, because for me it's not fun. It feels strange to me, and always has felt strange to me, for stand up in front of people and tell them how great I am, because I don't like it. So I'd rather they come to a program and find out for themselves how great I am, because they're finding out how great they are. Okay, and that to me is what a really great leader is and does, and that takes a pretty special kind of person, I think. I train trainers, but I don't certify very many of them, because not only am I after the knowledge and the skills and the presentation skills and all that, but I'm not going to certify somebody that I don't think is a really good ethical person. Because the skills that you get in the process of becoming a trainer are just way, way strong. And you can use those skills in a way that probably gives you the advantage over some people. And I don't like that, and I don't do that. So if I get a hint from somebody that they're going to use this to be cool, or to make money and not care about what happens to people, or tell them whatever they need to tell them in order to get more money, then I won't certify those people for nothing. And I'm fairly famous in the trainers world for being a person who doesn't certify trainers. I had a group in St. Petersburg, Russia. I had 45 people in that group, and it was a trainers group, and it was a good group, a lot of good people, but I certified 4. And afterwards, one of the guys in that group, he comes up to me, and I thought he was going to complain about it because I didn't certify him, and he said, "You know what, Frank? This is the first time I've ever believed in a trainer and the integrity of the trainer in my life, because I totally agree with the 4 you certified, and I totally agree with the 41 you didn't. Most people will give out certification like it's candy, or like because you paid the money you get certified. Not me. I don't. I consider my name valuable. And I consider my name, if somebody's going to carry my name into the world on a certification, then I want the world to know that those people are the best there are, and that they're ethical and knowledgeable and good people. So I'm not your normal run-of-the-mill certify everybody trainer, but I have probably now about maybe 800 trainers in the world that are certified by me. And I have about 6 or 7 that are presented by me. These are mine. These are my people, and I guarantee the world these 7 people are the best in the world, besides me, of course.
Yes, I understand. Frank, how long have you been a successful trainer?
How long have I been a certified trainer?
Yes.
Right now, about 49 years.
Oh.
Yeah, we didn't really have the certification process until in the early 80s, because we weren't aiming in that direction. We were doing research, and we were loving it, and we were training people, and we were learning. And there was about 14 of us that built Meta. And we built Meta from 1971 to 1975. And none of these people are in the business of Meta or NLP, none of them, except one, me. And because when they left, they didn't think of it as a sellable discipline. They thought of it as research that they were really happy to do while they were graduate students at the University of California at Santa Cruz. And they left with that wisdom in their head and used it to go on and do other careers in their life. But they didn't know. And I contacted some of them about 20 years ago, and I told them about an NLP, and they go, "What's that?" And they didn't know that NLP was meta, because when they were in the group with me, we called it meta, and it was never renamed that until 75, 76. When other things happened and the dynamics between people always get involved. But after that, then the certification process was developed by Leslie Cameron and Robert Dilts and David Gordon and one of my good buddies, Byron Lewis. And they developed that after I left. But when I found out about it in the early 80s, then I thought, that's a really good idea. And I looked into what they were doing. I evaluated everything and I adjusted it a little bit. And then I started being willing to certify people as practitioners, master practitioners, and trainers in about, must have been maybe 84. After, in 1979, I was living in Nebraska, and I moved back to San Diego, my original home, and 4 of the original researchers joined me in San Diego, and then we built up our own certification process that we thought was really important because it was becoming really popular, and we wanted to somehow control who's out there teaching NLP and so forth, because it is so valuable, and we just didn't want it to become a junk, and with everybody and their mother teaching it without any certification or whatever. So we built the certification process at the same time. The people in Santa Cruz were building their certification process, and we basically support each other. Not exactly, but basically. And of course, mine's better, but I'm supposed to think that, right? So we went on from there, and then a lot of people nowadays are certifying people in generative coaching, NLP, something else, right? And so now they have like 25 certifications in 25 different things, all of them basically related to NLP. And in my mind, okay, I don't do that.
Frank, I have a last question for today for you, but
Okay.
for today.
Okay.
How many different subjects do you teach besides NLP or Meta?
Yeah. I teach, I do a lot of training in PTSD, but in a very particular area for people who are going to work with combat soldiers. A lot of people know how to work with trauma. And Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, for example, wrote an incredible book on trauma, and it's really, really good. But combat soldiers are different, and they have a different phenomenon, and they weren't getting help. And so I trained 6,000 psychologists and counselors into Ukraine in the last 5 years to work with PTSD. And I train people in PTSD all around the world. I have another system that we built in 1973 called dissociated state therapy. And what we did is we chunked down, we studied all of the different therapy forms that deal with parts, like transactional analysis, Freudian, Reichian, Rogerian, Gestalt, Virginia Satir, all of those people. And we chunked a lot of those down, and we discovered that they're all very similar. And so what we did is we put them together and then created a system that teaches all 10 of the best psychotherapies, parts therapies, all at one time. And I have that program, and it's called DST. And it's the finest program on about 90% of what people call therapy are parts therapies. You understand? But it's about internal conflict. Okay. And so the vast majority of psychology has dealt with internal conflict. And most of the good systems are about internal conflict. Tudor deals with one of the only other areas there is, and that's unconscious problems that people don't really understand. And he goes in there and messes with all of that and does his hypnosis and helps people a lot. But that's a different structure. That's a different system. And so I'm trying to make sure he's the best in the world at DST nowadays. So that'll be good. And he can do both. Yeah. There are some other systems, but they're all pretty much brought back to parts therapies. And I teach that program, but it's a 36-day training program over the period of a year to learn the skills and techniques of the top 10 psychotherapies in recent history. Now, if you try to study one, it's going to take you 10 years. Okay, so if you want to study all 10, then you're going to be 100 before you can actually go to work. But DST teaches you all 10 in 1 year. And so and better, because you can adjust the therapy to fit the client, which most of the therapists can't do. They adjust the client to fit the therapy, which is really, really, really not the right way to do it. So I teach DST, I teach PTSD, I teach leadership skills to businesses. I teach organizational development to consultants. I do a lot of work with coaching and coaches because when they learn NLP, they become much better coaches. And they already have the coaching technology, so that just makes it better. So I adjust meta to fit the coaching ideology much better. And I like doing that. It's fun because a lot of times those people are really well trained. They just don't understand some of the characteristics of how people think. So if I can add that to them, then they become much better coaches. I do programs for parents. I teach parenting, and because I work with a lot of troubled kids, and I see what happens to kids who don't have parents who know how to do parenting. There's more, but basically that's the ones that I focus on most.
Thank you, Frank. And you have the time, and you agree. We can see you again another live meeting, possible next month, if it's possible. Tudor, Frank, a last word for this meeting from you.
Tudor?
Thank you. So we have a practitioner class that will start in 18th of the May through 22nd of May. The first part of practitioner class, and the second part of practitioner class will be from the 1st of the June to the 5th of the June this year, 2022. Maybe people will see the video after some years. So this is the beginning, and I think that the presence of Frank here in Romania, it's a great opportunity not only for the personal development area, but also for the business and for the psychologists who want to be really skillful, because we all know how skillful they are.
For me, Tudor, that's excellent. For me, it's really a pleasure to have Tudor as my partner here in Romania, and we will be working together a lot. I totally agree with him about the upcoming programs, and I'm not going to be here very often. So I think if you really want to get the basic, raw, best NLP meta that you can possibly get, I'm probably the most knowledgeable, skillful meta / NLP person in the world. And I don't say that lightly, and it's really difficult for me to say that, but it's the truth. So if you have any interest in learning an incredibly powerful brand of meta, catch me while I'm here, and I'll be glad to talk with you and share this stage with my buddy Tudor. And we'll do the best we can to make sure you have the most profound learning experience you have had possibly in your life. So we look forward to that, both of us, Tudor and I. And Gabriel, you're wonderful. Thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you, Frank. Thank you, Tudor, for today.
Thank you.
And I hope to see you again soon. And to the next course in May and June. Thank you.
Super.
Thank you. Have a nice weekend and have a nice evening. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Yes,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Dragilor, vă mulțumesc și vouă că ați fost în seara aceasta alături de noi. Țineți aproape pentru că vom veni cu subiecte noi în momentele și zilele și lunile care urmează. Tocmai de aceea urmăriți în continuare profilul meu de LinkedIn, Mihail Gabriel Chiciureanu, și canalul de YouTube, Mihail Gabriel Chiciureanu. Toate cele bune și să ne revedem cu bine. Numai bine!